Alright, so we have a new article today for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth that discusses that very emotional and infamous moment with a particular character from the original game, and how the developers are planning to make it even more emotional and impactful for Rebirth. So if any of that sounds cool to you, feel free to click the like button, and if you're new here and you'd like to stick around, you can subscribe as well. It is always appreciated. So just a heads up, this video will contain some pretty massive spoilers in regards to the original Final Fantasy VII as well as Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So if you're new to the 7 franchise, maybe you hopped on board with 7 Remake, you might want to click away from this video or save it for later until after you finish Rebirth, because we're going to be talking about a very pivotal moment in the original game that could potentially play out again in Rebirth. So now that the warning is out of the way, we are of course talking about the death of Aerith. Now this article comes to us from Game Informer. Again, they sat down with Tetsuya Nomura in the development team to just kind of do a deep dive into Rebirth, and we did cover a pretty big chunk of this specific topic in my deep dive video that I posted last week. So if you'd like to check that out, I'll leave a link to that video in the description below. From combat to the Aerith situation, what they're doing with Sephiroth, some cool fun stuff that you can catch up on. But we're going to be talking about this article today because they did add some extra words from Nomura, which I think are actually very interesting. So the author of the article goes on to say, the team feels it was truly able to do something novel and more emotional through Rebirth's version of the scene. Tetsuya Nomura goes on to say, I do believe that the way we have depicted it brings about a new emotion and a new feeling for both players who have played the original Final Fantasy VII and newcomers. I was able to do what I truly wanted to show in this title. Now, you're probably wondering to yourself, how do you take the death of Aerith, one of the most heartbreaking, gut-wrenching moments in video game history, and make it even more emotional and impactful and shocking? Well, I think there's two different ways you can go about that. There's the story and narrative stuff, and then there's the technological aspect of gaming and how that has evolved. So starting off first with the story stuff, there's obviously a lot of different theories going around, but of course in the original Final Fantasy VII, when Aerith goes to the Forgotten Capital, the Forgotten City, she prays to summon Holy. Sephiroth comes out of nowhere and spears her in the stomach, killing her, which was incredibly traumatizing for 7-year-old me. But as far as some of the theories going around out there about how they could change that up, there's a couple in particular that I keep seeing. And one of the first ones is, yeah, maybe Aerith does die at the Forgotten Capital like it happened in the original game, but now she wakes up in the Zack timeline because Aerith is still alive in his timeline, and she could wake up there with all of her knowledge and information and work with Zack in his timeline to try and figure out how they can help out Cloud and the party in the main timeline, which is pretty out there. The other theory, and this is the one I kind of lean more towards, is maybe Aerith does not die in the way that she does originally from the original game. Maybe she survives her first encounter with Sephiroth, and then inevitably she realizes later on that she has to die because her death is a fixed point. It's something that always happens no matter what you do, and it needs to happen so that way the party can defeat Sephiroth. So she dies maybe towards the end of the game in a different way that's even more heartfelt and impactful than it was in the original. But the one big monkey wrench in this entire situation and in the theory is Sephiroth. What the hell is Sephiroth even doing? What is his overall plan and goal in this remake trilogy? Because I'm going off the assumption here that the Sephiroth we're dealing with is post-Advent Children Sephiroth. He just has a lot more information seemingly. He's showing up in different spots where he normally doesn't, and he's manipulating the party in new ways that we never saw in the original game. One of the moments in particular that really sticks out to me is the scene between Cloud and Sephiroth at the edge of creation. And in that moment, Sephiroth is not antagonizing Cloud. He's offering his hand in partnership to Cloud, asking him, work with me and we can defy destiny together. And that's like my Roman Empire moment right now that I keep thinking about, is what is Sephiroth doing? Is this just more manipulation on his part to try and goad Cloud into following the original timeline? Or is there more at play here that Sephiroth knows about that he's not letting the party know? Is there an alternate Sephiroth out there that's working against, post-Advent Children Sephiroth? I don't know. It's so outlandish that nobody really knows what's going on. But the other monkey wrench there is, if this is in fact a Sephiroth working with all of that knowledge, why would he even kill Aerith in the first place? Because technically in the original game, by killing Aerith, that's when Sephiroth fucks up. because when Aerith dies, she becomes one with the planet. She can summon the life stream to back up Holy to fight off Meteor and Sephiroth. So if Sephiroth is planning to change things around and win, it doesn't really make sense for him to then kill Aerith. So maybe he somehow found a different way to manipulate the party to ensure that his plans succeed this time. So those are the two biggest question marks I have so far. And those are the two things that are really making this entire story aspect of Rebirth very interesting. What's going to happen to Aerith, and what the heck is Sephiroth going to even do? Now, the second aspect of that is the technological aspect of gaming and how far games have come, from voice acting and motion capture to graphics, gameplay, sound design, and even writing in the overall performance. The whole package of gaming is so different these days than it was back then. And obviously, OG FF7 wasn't voiced, it was all text-based. And when you have just text, sometimes the nuance in the characters and the story can get misinterpreted or kind of lost. But nowadays, we've got voice acting. And I think the English voice cast is absolutely phenomenal. These actors are bringing their A game and adding so much depth and nuance to these characters. And you couple that with some really great writing and some really great localization on the English side of things. And I think you're going to have a moment that if it does play out that way like it did in the original, it's going to be even so much more impactful, because now we're going to hear Cloud speak those words about Aerith after she dies. We're going to hear Aerith die. We're going to potentially see Sephiroth's very cold and cruel reaction to killing Aerith. We're going to hear that entire party one by one go through their memories of Aerith and pay tribute to her in ways that are probably going to make that even more impactful and emotional. And I think that's part of what Nomura is saying here. It's not just the writing aspect, it's those performances from those really incredible actors that are going to add even more sadness and grief to that specific scene, assuming it plays out the same way. But again, none of us really know what the heck's going to go on anyway. But regardless of what they're planning, I'm pretty sure we're all going to be shocked, because I think they did an incredible job with Remake, with the writing and the gameplay and the overall packaging of that game. And I think they're going to do an even better job, at least I hope so, with Rebirth. And I cannot wait to experience that story and see what different changes are going to be at play here, because I think it's going to make part 3 even more interesting. So with that being said, I am Curious Corduroy. That is the video. Let me know in the comments down below, what do you guys think of all these crazy theories going around with Aerith? But most importantly, what do you guys think is going on with Sephiroth? Do you think there's more going on there with that character? And do you think he is planning to kill Aerith still? Or do you think he's got a different way to try and make sure that he succeeds this go around? I will see you guys in the next video. Please remember to always be excellent to one another.